fish on the fly. Yeah, baby. Wow. Man, that fish meant it. Holy mackerel. He hit him. Oh, he's still there. Oh, yeah. Woo. Oh, that is a nice fish. That's one for the stringer if I can get him in. Come here, baby. Yes! Oh, that's a nice fish. Look at that studly rainbow. That's a nice fish. Jumped all over that orange fly, way back in his mouth. He really wanted it, man. He hit like a ton of bricks, put up a great fight, and jumped all over the place. He's gonna have orange meat, and man, that's gonna just be an awesome fish to eat, to smoke, whatever. Think Leadcore line's obsolete? Well, think again. Look at those big, beautiful rainbows. I got these fish while trolling 15 to 20 feet deep, and I didn't use a downrigger. If you don't want the expense or hassle of using a downrigger, pick up one of my yellow Leadcore rods in the Fish Hunt Shoot Production store and get ready to yell, fish on. Just like that, baby. Kellogg here. I just got a question about trout fishing rods, and it's a recurring question, so I grabbed the camera, ran down here in the backyard, and I'm going to answer this question on video. And you know, since it's a recurring question, I think this is a question that's on a lot of guys' minds. Some of them reach out, some of them don't. But the question was, guy asked me if he could run Leadcore line on one of my signature trout and salmon rods, one of my downrigger rods. And the answer is yes and no. We'll get into that rod in a second. But I get these questions all the time about Leadcore, about downrigger rods, about Leadcore rods, stuff like that. I'm not trying to sell you tackle. If you want to buy my tackle, fantastic. We love that. I'm going to talk about the properties of the rods and what I want in a rod. If you got a favorite Leadcore rod, good for you. That's great. But I just want to talk about the properties and kind of give my thoughts on the subject. Leadcore rods versus downrigger rods, different applications, stuff like that. So here is my signature series yellow Leadcore rod. If you've watched the channel much, you've seen this rod in action. I run my hybrid Leadcore rig on it. It works very well. The thing to know, it's actually one of my rainbow fisheye Pro Dodgers. They look awesome. Plug for my Dodger. But anyway, the thing with my Leadcore rod is it's 6'6". Definitely this rod is aimed at the small boat fraternity, the kayakers, the guys in the small aluminums, guys in canoes. You know, guys, in my experience, guys in big North Rivers, they can absolutely run Leadcore successfully. But typically, those guys are not interested in Leadcore. They want to run their downriggers, and they don't know it. They're missing out on a lot of fish. But the bottom line is, I geared these Leadcore rods for the smaller boat guys, and that's why we came in at 6'6" for ease of fighting fish, netting fish, and transport in a smaller boat. So there you go, 6'6". Look at the action on this rod. It's got some play in the tip. If you're gonna fish for trout and salmon, you have to have that play in the tip for a few different reasons. You gotta have it to fight, you know, cushion the fight of the fish, especially on a Leadcore rod, because if you're running Leadcore with a fluoro top shot and a braid, you know, backing, you have a very low stretch rig. I mean, you're getting direct drive from the rod tip to the hook in the fish's mouth. So you need that cushioning in the rod tip on the Leadcore rod. But beyond that, there is a lot of power in this rod, and it's not just power to fight fish. You know, we all want power in a rod when we're out fishing because we're always trying to catch a big fish, and that's got to be part of the consideration. I might be catching, you know, planet trout after planet trout after planet trout, but what happens on that one day in your fishing career when the 11-pound brown grabs that lure? You got to have that power for big fish. But for my Leadcore rod, the power is there, you know, in large part to deal with the weight of the Leadcore. You pick up a piece of 15-pound Leadcore line, it doesn't feel like anything. But when it comes time to change my Leadcore and I strip all three colors off and I roll it up into a little tight ball, it's pretty heavy. I've never weighed one, but it's an ounce and a half of, you know, lead weights. So the rod needs to be up to that challenge. So that's why I sell these yellow Leadcore rods. That's why I run them. They're heavier than a Downrigger rod. They still have a nice soft tip, but it's backed up fairly quickly with a lot of power and a lot of backbone. And I gotta say, this combo works very well. Having said that, I fished my Leadcore rig, my hybrid 3-color rig, off of standard trout rods for a long time, and I did very well. But my rods were overloaded. You know, part of the backbone of the rods was being sapped up by the weight of the Leadcore, and by doing that, I lost fish fighting ability. So let me grab my Downrigger rod here. The action of this rod, now this rod, it is meant to be either used for top lining or fished out of a Downrigger. It is 7 foot 6 inches long, and hopefully, let me see here. Can't see with the glasses too well, but it is bright out here. There we go. Okay, so if you look at the action on this rod, it's still a fast action rod, fairly fast, kind of medium fast. I do not like a super slow action Downrigger rod. It's got enough play to load into Downrigger. It's got enough play to, you know, cushion the fight of a fish. But it is backed up by backbone. If I get a big Mac or a big Rainbow or a big Brown on here, I have a lot of power. I could land a striper on this rod, but it is a much lighter rod than the Leadcore rod. Now, if I was running Leadcore on this rod, it would be loaded like that, you know, something like that, a lot of the time. So I lose a lot of the play of the rod with the rod just being loaded against the Leadcore. So the bottom line is, this rod is superb for top lining, for Downrigger fishing. It has a lot of power. It has that medium fast action, but it is much lighter than the Downrigger rod in general. Those Downrigger rods, when you start getting into the backbone, there's a ton of power. There's certainly more power than you're gonna find in my, you know, my Downrigger and top lining rods, but it's there for an important reason. This rod is intended to be used with monofilament, fluorocarbon, braided line, stuff like that. It's not intended to be loaded up with 1.5 ounces of Leadcore line. Now let's look at another Downrigger rod here. I'll show you a rod that I don't really like. A lot of guys like these. I'm not a big fan. This is your Okuma SST, and I'm not throwing Okuma under the bus by any means. I've gotten rods like this and softer rods than this from all the top name manufacturers. For some reason, when the top manufacturers think about kokanee and trout fishing on the West Coast, they're thinking we catch fish this big all day, every day, and that's what we're fishing for. Look at this rod. It's beautiful. It's a nice rod. It's a mid-priced rod. But you start loading this rod up, and there, look at that. There is nothing there. I'm all the way down to the butt there. I'm still getting bend out of the rod. There is no power in this rod if you're out at Stampede and you hook a 15, 18, 20-pound Mackinaw. You may land him, but you're not going to land him because you did anything with the rod to steer the fish or move the fish. All you're going to be able to do is keep the fish out of the snags, and hopefully the fish is going to come, you know, to the boat exhausted on his side, and you're going to kind of semi-drag him over there because you have very little control with a rod like this. Fun for kokanee, cool to see, you know, snap out of the Downrigger. But in my view, you're looking for trouble when you run light rods like this because, you know, you hook a big fish, you got no control. And when you're getting a big fish near the kayak or near the boat, I've got to have some control. I want to be able to lead that fish away from a Downrigger cable, lead that fish away from the motor. I need some control, and you get that control with backbone and a fairly, you know, medium fast to fast action rod. That's where your control comes from. Got to have enough cushion on a trout and salmon rod, you know, to accommodate the fight, the head shakes of the fish, the fact that the fish have a soft mouth, and also the fact that more and more we're using lower and lower stretch line in our rigs. But you got to have that softness in the tip. But you got to have the backbone to take care of business when you need to take care of business. So anyway, that's my perspective on Downrigger rods versus Leadcore rods, top lining rods versus Leadcore rods. stuff like that. Pretty simple stuff. If you absolutely, you don't have it in the budget to get the Leadcore rod and you want to fish Leadcore part of the time, you want to downrig part of the time, by all means, my 7'6" trout and salmon rods will do the job. But if you're talking about serious Leadcore trolling, a dedicated Leadcore rod is going to do the job better. So anyway, once again, that's my perspective. I want to thank you guys for all the support you've given the channel and our store over the past year. Subscribers to the channel are way up. We certainly enjoy doing this content. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be able to do content like this. If you're looking for gear or rods or whatever, go on over to the fishhuntshoot.com website, check out my store. And if you're not a subscriber yet, join the party. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, and you'll always know when I'm on here talking about fishing or whatever I'm talking about. I got a lot of videos planned this week, mostly about fishing, some about some other off-the-wall subjects. So anyway, I'm Cal Kellogg. I am signing off. Once again, thanks for all the support. You be safe, healthy, happy, and I will catch you next time right here on YouTube, guys. Thanks a lot. Fish on. Look at that stud of a rainbow. Wow. What a beautiful fish. Incredible. He's heavy. He's super heavy. Wow. Very nice.